That's all you've got before the door gives way. You can't take everything. You can only grab what actually helps you survive. Most people think they'd reach for the right gear, but under pressure, they usually don't. So today, I'm testing 10 of the internet's most popular survival gadgets to find out which ones are genuinely useful and which ones are just clever marketing. And yes, we're using a zombie apocalypse as the challenge, because if a gadget can help you survive a fictional zombie outbreak, it'll probably be useful during real emergencies too, whether it's a natural disaster, a long power outage, or getting stranded outdoors. I bought every item myself. No sponsorships, no paid promotions, just real testing. One gadget completely disappointed me. Another turned out to be far better than I expected. Let's find out which ones actually deserve a place in your bug-out bag. Before we start, one quick note. This video isn't professional survival advice, and I'm definitely not encouraging anyone to drink unsafe water or put themselves in dangerous situations. These demonstrations are controlled tests designed to see how these products perform. Also, some of the links in the description may be affiliate links, meaning I may earn a small commission if you decide to buy something at no extra cost to you. With that out of the way, let's begin. Our first gadget is the Gerber multitool. If you've watched survival videos before, you've probably seen something like this. The idea is simple. Instead of carrying separate tools, you carry one compact tool that can handle dozens of different jobs. Let's see if it actually earns that reputation. We've got a knife, pliers, wire cutters, a saw, flathead screwdriver, Phillips screwdriver, and a few other small tools packed into one. First, cutting rope. Nice. One clean cut with very little effort. Next, opening this stubborn paint can. There we go. Not instant, but definitely easier than using a kitchen knife. Now let's try the saw. It takes a little patience, but it gets the job done. No survival tool is perfect, but if you're building shelter, making repairs, or preparing firewood, having all these functions in one pocket-sized tool is genuinely useful. Final rating, 8 out of 10. Not flashy, just reliable. Now here's something that looked amazing online. A budget hand crank flashlight. The advertisement basically promises unlimited light because you generate the power yourself. Sounds great, but marketing doesn't always match reality. So here's the test. I'm going to crank it continuously for 1 full minute. 1 minute later, let's switch it on. Well, that's disappointing. It's definitely producing light, but barely enough to comfortably see across a dark room. Maybe I didn't crank it enough? Let's try another minute. Second test. Pretty much the same result. Now to be fair, this doesn't mean every hand crank flashlight is bad. It just means this inexpensive model didn't perform the way I expected. A better built version could produce very different results. Final rating, 3 out of 10. I'd rather spend a little more money on a higher quality flashlight than depend on this one in an emergency. So far we've had one solid tool and one complete disappointment. But the next gadget is probably the most famous survival product ever made. Let's see if it deserves that reputation. This is the LifeStraw personal water filter. If you've ever searched for survival gear, you've probably seen this. One important reminder before we continue. Just because a water source looks clean doesn't mean it's safe to drink. And even when using a water filter, you should always follow the manufacturer's instructions. For today's demonstration, I'm using water prepared specifically for this controlled test. According to the manufacturer, the LifeStraw is designed to filter out 99.999999% of bacteria and 99.999% of parasites when used correctly. That's an impressive specification. Now let's see how easy it is to use. It takes a second to start flowing, but once it does, it's surprisingly easy to drink through. It's lightweight, requires no batteries, and can fit almost anywhere, whether your emergency is fictional zombies or simply losing access to clean drinking water. Having a portable filter makes a lot of sense. Final rating, 10 out of 10. If I could only recommend one item so far, this would be it. I'll be honest, when this arrived, I thought it looked more like a fashion accessory than survival gear, but looks can be deceiving. Let's take it apart. Inside is several feet of usable paracord. Enough for tying gear together, repairing equipment, securing shelter materials, or dozens of other small survival jobs. Today I'm using it to lash together two wooden poles. It isn't magical. It won't replace real climbing rope. But for something that weighs almost nothing, it's surprisingly practical. Sometimes the simplest gear ends up being the most useful. Final rating, 8 out of 10. Definitely exceeded my expectations. This gadget causes a lot of confusion online. People think the small solar panel can quickly recharge the entire power bank. In reality, these built-in solar panels usually charge very slowly. They're best used to extend battery life during long emergencies, not as your main charging method. So for today's test, I fully charged the power bank beforehand, then left it in direct sunlight for several hours to see whether the solar panel added any usable charge. The solar charging was slow, but it did recover a small amount of power. The large internal battery is still the real advantage here. It charged my phone successfully, and having backup power from apps, emergency contacts, or important updates could make a huge difference. Just don't expect the sun alone to recharge it quickly. Final rating, 8 out of 10. Useful, as long as you understand what it can and can't do. We're halfway through. So far we've found one gadget that's absolutely worth carrying, and another that's definitely staying behind. But the next 5 include one of the cheapest items on this list, and one piece of gear I genuinely trust in almost any emergency. Let's keep going. At first glance, this just looks like an ordinary metal pen. You can write with it, clip it into your pocket, and nobody would think twice about it. But this model also includes a hardened tip designed for emergency situations, such as breaking tempered vehicle side windows if you become trapped inside a car. Let's see how it performs. As a pen, it works perfectly fine. Now for the emergency test. Rather than hitting the center, I'll aim near one of the corners, where tempered glass is more likely to break. There it goes. It wasn't one magical hit, like some advertisements claim, but it did break the glass after a few solid strikes. That makes it a useful emergency backup tool. Just remember, it's still a pen first, not a replacement for dedicated rescue equipment. Final rating, 7 out of 10. Useful to have. Just don't expect movie-level performance. This might be the least exciting gadget in today's video, and yet, it could end up being one of the smartest purchases. Here's why. Movies make survival look like constant action. Real emergencies are often the opposite. Sometimes the biggest challenge is simply letting other people know where you are. A whistle can be heard much farther than someone shouting, and it doesn't tire your voice. Ready? Yep. He heard it immediately. On a sunny day, a signal mirror creates a bright flash that's visible from a long distance. Tiny, lightweight, costs only a few dollars, yet could be incredibly valuable. Final rating, 9 out of 10. Probably the most underrated item in this video. Bandages, gauze, antiseptic wipes, medical tape, gloves, and a few other emergency essentials. Let's be honest. If you're preparing for any emergency, whether it's zombies, a storm, or a camping accident, there's a much higher chance you'll need basic first aid than you'll need some fancy survival gadget. The most expensive gear in the world can't help much if you can't deal with the simple cut or burn. I'm not rating this based on how exciting it is. I'm rating it based on necessity. Final rating, 9 out of 10. Honestly, every emergency kit should include one. Fire means warmth, light, the ability to cook food, and in many survival situations, peace of mind. Unlike ordinary matches, a ferro rod doesn't become useless after getting wet. Let's test that. Dry it off. Grab some dry tinder, and strike. A few more strikes, and there it is. It isn't as effortless as using a lighter. You'll need practice, but once you learn the technique, it's incredibly dependable. Final rating, 9 out of 10. Simple, reliable, exactly what survival gear should be. We've tested almost everything. Only one gadget remains, and unlike every other item today, this one isn't about doing a single job. It's about bringing everything together. This is a bug-out backpack. Think of it as your emergency kit that's already packed and ready to go. Inside there's room for water, food, extra clothing, a flashlight, medical supplies, and every useful gadget we've tested today. The biggest advantage isn't the backpack itself. It's preparation, because in a real emergency, You probably won't have time to search your house for gear. You'll grab what's already ready. Let's recreate the challenge from the beginning. 60 seconds. Pack everything. Go. Multi-tool. Water filter. Paracord. Power bank. First aid kit. Fire starter. Whistle. Emergency blanket. Food rations. Done. Mission complete. Whether the emergency is fictional zombies or something much more realistic, being prepared before you need to be is what really matters. Final rating, 10 out of 10. Not because it's the most exciting item, but because it's the one that makes every other tool easier to carry and access. Let's rank everything. Perfect 10s go to the LifeStraw water filter and the bug-out backpack. Scoring 9 out of 10 are the emergency whistle and signal mirror, the compact first aid kit, and the Magnesium Fire Starter. At 8 out of 10, we have the Gerber multitool, the Paracord Bracelet, and the solar power bank. The tactical pen earns 7 out of 10. And in last place, with just 3 out of 10, is the cheap hand crank flashlight. The biggest surprise? Definitely the Paracord Bracelet. The biggest disappointment? That cheap flashlight. Sometimes spending a little more up front saves a lot of frustration later. So, if you only had 60 seconds before you had to leave, which 3 of these gadgets would make it into your backpack? Let me know in the comments. I read them all, and I pin my favorite answer from every video. If you enjoyed this test and want to see more real-world survival gear put through honest challenges, hit subscribe. In the next video, I'll be touring a real prepper's bunker to see what they actually keep inside, and I have a feeling a few of the items might surprise you. Until then, stay prepared, and I'll see you in the next one.